Sangate Bodhi Swaha Gate Gate Bara Gate Bara 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 Sangate Bodhi Swaha Aryavalokitteshvara Bodhisattva Gambiram Prashnya Paramitacharyam Charamano Vyavalokitteshvara Panchaskanda Asatascha Swabhava Shunyam Pashyati Sma Iha Shariputra Rupam Shunyam Shunyata Iva Rupa.
So, as Siddhartha did everything that was expected for him once he left out of the palace with his courage, and he saw four things that awakened him, and four things that awakened in him what was inside of him, what was deep inside of him, to answer some questions. So as he lived a life that it pleased others but not him, obviously, he left out of the palace at the age of 29, and he saw four things. He encountered four things that made him question his life, that made him question about suffering. The first thing that he saw was an old person. As in his palace, old people were not allowed it. In the palace, Suddhodana had forbidden to be near Siddhartha, old people, sick people, and of course death. So Siddhartha, he saw an old person. Then he saw a sick person, and then he saw someone dead. And this is some parts of suffering, some parts that made him question why there is so much suffering in the world. What can we do about it? Why do I suffer? Because if himself already didn't suffer inside of him, didn't had much suffering inside of him, these things wouldn't touch him if he didn't have a spiritual peace in his heart. So we said the first was an old person, then he saw someone sick, and then someone who was dead. And after all this, he saw an ascetic, that the ascetic was trying to go beyond suffering, to find the root of suffering, and to find that which would make him genuinely happy. So we can see these three things that Siddhartha, the prince, Siddhartha encountered. And we can see them around us every day because, for example, it's very deep fears for everyone. Not to be young, not to be healthy, and not to be able to live life as we want to live. So, and we can see these three things and around us that govern around us, that people are trying their best to stay as young as much they can. They don't like old age. Many times old people are abandoned. Sick people are abandoned. So we can see that also around us. People are trying to be healthy, of course, but the most important thing is that these three things, these three fundamentals, we can say, fears that causes that causes deep feelings, deep emotions in us. Are around us. They are outside also. We can see them outside. We can see them through many, we can say, advertising and television, even movies. Everything around us is around all these three things: youth, how to stay young forever with a very beautiful face, how to stay healthy and do everything you can do for your health, of course, but sometimes it can be in a very exaggerated matter, and how to be able to sustain life, immortality. It's because all these things, they are things that affect mortals, and we seek, many people seek immortality. So suffering, it's we can say it's not something new. It's not something that we're not accustomed. Suffering exists many years, millions of years now. It's not something that just arrived in the planet. We are accustomed with suffering. All religions, as Master Samael Enver says, that are precious jewels in the necklace of divinity. All religions are trying to help people end suffering and to be united with God. So we can say that even for Siddhartha, then when he went back, he saw that even in the palace there was suffering. So even in the palace there can be suffering. It doesn't matter. Suffering can affect you whether you are poor or you are rich. Suffering does not look for the class that you have. Everyone suffers, and it's through these teachings, through the Gnostic teachings that are given by the masters, that we can end suffering, and it needs a lot of time, effort, and to achieve a higher level of consciousness in order to end suffering. So we're just contemplating and just giving some teachings, some help that was given to us by the masters. So Siddhartha Gautama. Gautama was his family name, and he's always called. When he got enlightened, when he became a Buddha, he's also. They also called him Sakyamuni, which is called the sage of the clan of the Sakyas, because it's the clan he belonged to, and the Gautama, it's the family name he had. So when Siddhartha, the young prince, came back from visioning, from seeing all these scenes, an old person, a sick person, and a dead person, and then he saw the ascetic that he was trying to end suffering within him. He abandoned. In the middle of the night, he abandoned his very rich and very, we can say, life of benefits from material things. He abandoned them, and he became ascetic, as the prophecies have told. And much for the the anger, maybe the pain that his father had, that he left his dream, Suddhodana's dream, not Siddhartha's, because it's quite interesting how many times we are trying to fulfill other people's dreams, and Siddhartha did this. He did this for many years, for 29 years. He did what everyone expected from him, everything that others expected him to do, to act, to react. But at some point he realized that he had to find an answer in his questions. He had one strong question that was why there is suffering, and how can I stop other people suffering from suffering, and myself. This was not a selfish act. This was an internal call that he could not ignore anymore. So it's not like that he left his family, that he left his wife and his child, because it's not that he left them being poor and went for the enlightenment. His family was left in very good hands, was left in a very rich environment. So it's quite interesting to reflect upon those things, upon what others expect from us to do, and what our inner calls are. And then Siddhartha, the young prince, he went to study with ascetics. He passed through many things until he became enlightened. He became a Buddha, and he was able to speak about the nirvana. The nirvana, the renunciation of ourselves, and the true liberation from suffering, because nirvana, it's a we can say in a part of it that it is also a psychological state.